welcome to CeeLo Green.
Mind if I get a quick photo with this?
I need some direction, some kind of correction. Been walking in circles, seeing things I've seen before, but I wanna know more. I walk in a straight line, but then I look away from you. I start to lose my way and do the things I said I would never do. And it's all for a moment of satisfaction that feels good. Oh, but is it really worth missing my chances? 'Cause I don't wanna miss the mark. I've barely reached the start. This time I do my part and give you my whole heart.
You just enjoyed the sweet sounds of the Sangari brothers, an independent band of twins who are about to graduate with an associate degree in music business from our very own School of Entertainment and Design Technology here at Miami Dade College. To learn more, please visit sangaribrothers.com. My name is Professor Tommy Demos, and I am proud to be a film and TV faculty member here at the School of Entertainment and Design Technology at Miami Dade College North Campus. Today's event, Meet CeeLo Green, will feature a dialogue between five-time Grammy Award winner CeeLo Green and Unique Barker, a producer on his next album, which is called Lodega, and would like to invite Hema to the stage to give you all a warm welcome.
Can you smell it?
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? Woo! We are very excited to have CeeLo here. I want to personally thank Professor Tommy Demos for making this happen. I got a call from Mr. Demos last week saying, I can get CeeLo here. And I'm like, well, I guess we're getting CeeLo here. And sure enough, he is here. He's right by that door right there, guys. So we're very excited. He is super nice. He is everything you expect him to be. So please take advantage of your time here. If there is a small portion for some Q&A, please take advantage of that time to get to know CeeLo a little bit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hema. CeeLo Green cannot be summed up in just one title. He is a singer, songwriter, producer, television personality, actor, entrepreneur, pop culture, and fashion icon. In 2011, CeeLo received 5 Grammy nominations for his worldwide hit, Forget You, winning the category for Best Urban Alternative Performance. In addition to his success as a recording artist, CeeLo Green completed 4 seasons as a coach on NBC's hit show, The Voice, alongside Christina Aguilera, Adam Levine, and Blake Shelton. CeeLo also landed on the cover of Fast Company's 2012 Most Creative People in Business issue, Rolling Stones magazine, Delta Sky, Wax Poetics magazine, as well as Jet magazine. Let's give a warm MDC North Campus welcome to CeeLo Green and Unique Barker.
Full house. Hey everybody, how y'all doing?
Everybody, this is CeeLo Green. Can we give him a round of applause for being here? Thank you guys for attending. Thanks for everybody here at Miami Dade College for allowing us to do this.
Absolutely.
It's awesome to get CeeLo here. And yeah, I guess we'll just have a conversation, Lo, like we usually do.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm here, out of a love for community. And I'm recently, officially become your neighbor. I live here now. You know what I'm saying? So I may even come back over here and take a business course or something. I could use it. We could definitely use some better business. But so yeah. I'm just here out of love and out of an opportunity to bond and connect, man, like with real people like myself. So it's all out of love, y'all. Just let me know what y'all need from me. So you got me, man. Take full advantage of it. What's up? Talk to me.
So I'd just like to go from the beginning, man, because it's like, you know, obviously I've had the pleasure of working with you and being in the studio with you, but I kind of just want to know how it kind of all started from you, from back in Atlanta, where you're from, and just give the kids, you know, I think some people aren't as familiar maybe, you know what I'm saying, with the beginning, you know.
Okay.
So I would love to hear a little bit about, you know, how music all started for you and, you know, where it came from.
Well, I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm not too far. You know, we're relative for the most part. And my mother and father were both ministers, so I grew up around music. I grew up around praise. You know what I'm saying? So very early on, I was able to identify with the humility of gospel music, the sincerity, the conviction, you know what I mean? And I was more or less obligated, so it was by default that I learned these things and acquired these things as my own. And years later, I would be able to invest them into my own art form. So I've been around music as long as I can remember, and I was just telling the gentleman outside that, you know, we grew up, I had a performing family, you know, like, you know, almost like Black Partridge Family almost, you know, not as good though. And I learned how to sing by imitation, I think. And as they say, it's the greatest form of flattery. So a lot of the first voices that spoke to me were antique voices like Jackie Wilson. Are you guys too young to know who Jackie Wilson is? No? So, you know, what you could do, you could kind of really go back and, you know, reference these namesakes, as I mentioned, you know, make a note of it, you know, and just check these people out. They were wonderful, wonderfully talented performers. And let me see, I like Bobby Womack. You know, Bobby Womack, I loved Earth, Wind, and Fire. I loved Al Green. I loved Bobby Blue Bland, B.B. King. I love the blues, you know what I'm saying? So I grew up around these older men, uncles, and, you know, I was also in the Big Brother program. My father passed away when I was really young, when I was about two years old. So I've described this in interviews before of how it felt like I was identifying with a surrogate father and some of these soul voices, you know what I'm saying? So they spoke to me and they kept me out of more trouble than not all of the trouble. I still ended up getting a lot of trouble. But yeah, so music has been a blessing to my life. As long as I can remember.
For sure, it's amazing. And
then, you know, years later, we would come together miraculously. I grew up in the same neighborhoods as T-Mo. If you guys familiar with the Goody Mob, you got T-Mo, you got myself, Big Gip, Cujo. We all grew up as kids together. Well, they're a little older than me, but me and Andre 3000, we went to elementary school. We grew up from the 3rd grade together. You know what I'm saying? So people don't know that our friendships extend that far back, you know? And, you know, we weren't always involved in music. We were involved in different things. And after elementary school, let's say for Dre, for example, you know, we parted ways, and I did bump back into him into the 11th grade. And we both were high school dropouts. So if you think about the first line of Get Up, Get Out, y'all familiar with that record? That was my first debut verse on the Outkast debut album, Southern Playlist and Cadillac Music. And the first line to that verse is, I don't recall ever graduating at all. And I never did, you know what I'm saying? You know, I think Dre went on and got his GED. You know, but we were, we met each other again at an alternative school called Frank McLaren. You know, so it was for dropouts and people who wanted to go back and get their accreditations, and single mothers and people who were working jobs and things of that nature. And, you know, the rest is kind of history, you know what I mean, pretty much. But I could go on and on about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what would you say your first introduction to the music industry was? Like at what age?
Well, LaFace Records, you know, that's Babyface and Antonio L.A. Reid. They had sought out to make Atlanta the new Motown. And I'd be damned if they didn't succeed. You know what I'm saying? So they set up an office in Buckhead, Atlanta, right near Lenox Mall, right across the street actually. And you know, so it was almost like a memo went out that they were in town. And, you know, at the time, Atlanta was a small community of artists, you know what I mean, like creatives. And we had these little venues, the Kaya, the Yin Yang Cafe, and things, you know, like spoken word stages and things of that nature. So there weren't a ton of outlets, you know, but we were a close knit community. You know, we went to school with TLC. I went to school with Chili from TLC. You know, I sung background on Waterfalls. I demoed the original song for Waterfalls. I sung it first before they sung it.
Right.
You know, so it's really great stories in there.
And was it like T-Boz that I heard that kind of pushed you to singing fully?
It was it was all of those really special women in my life around that time.
Yeah.
It was T-Boz, it was Joy. I don't know if y'all remember Joy. She was an artist that was out. She was one of Dallas Austin's first artists. She ended up being Big Gift from Goody Mom's wife. They ended up marrying and having a child together. But she was a special individual too, and I sung background vocals for her first. She, you know, at the time considered herself discovering me. Lauryn Hill the same way. She took the same liking to me, to my voice and tone, and that's how she called me to be a part of the Santana project. You guys familiar with that? Carlos Santana. That Supernatural project, it really ultimately was a supernatural project. And she called me, and I want you to sing, you know, and Erykah Badu, you know what I'm saying, like was a friend of mine too, and I went and sung background vocals for them all separately. So I was basically got to start like how Luther Vandross, if you go back and look at Sesame Street, he's singing background vocals for David Bowie. So, you know, it's really great backstory, humble beginnings.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Well, I know Soul Food is like one of my favorite albums personally. Can you tell me a little bit about that? It's like the debut project for Goody Mob, yeah?
Yeah, so we came together. Goody Mob was originally a compilation, an album, you know, because before we started to call ourselves the Dungeon Family, we were called, the name of the collective was the Goody Mob. So we ended up kind of just breaking it down to it being a group. But I was a solo artist. Geb, Cujo, and T were a group called the Lumberjacks. You know, we kind of pooled our resources. We all knew each other from the neighborhood. It was really familiar, really comfortable. It felt like family immediately. You know, we had never worked together, but it just kind of gelled pretty organically and easily, you know. I don't know who came up with the idea, but, you know, we ended up recording Soul Food in Curtis Mayfield's house. Curtis Mayfield actually had do you guys know Curtis Mayfield? All right. So Curtis Mayfield had a home studio in our neighborhood. And we didn't know that for years. We didn't know Curtis Mayfield stayed right around the corner. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if it was management, I don't know who hooked it up, but we ended up packing up some things, and, you know, either we would live there through the week, the same way we did at the Dungeon. The Dungeon was like the boys' club. It was like a bomb shelter, you know what I'm saying, like for a lot of at-risk youth, which was, you know, pretty much all of us at the time. So we're very respectful and reverent and highly appreciative of Rico Wade, 1/4 of Organized Noise. Organized Noise is a production trio, including Sleepy Brown and Ray Yoda Murray, and they produced all of that original Goody Mob music and Outkast music and, you know, all of that great stuff we did then. But he took care of a lot of people. I remember us being disenfranchised and, you know, be there for days at a time not eating. And, you know, not showering, not doing nothing, just slumming it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, stay funky, for real. You know what I'm saying? But he would come in and he would, did y'all have Miss Winters chicken here? Miss Winters? It's a chicken brand. I know y'all got Chicken Kitchen. Y'all straight with them.
Popeyes.
Oh, y'all love Popeyes too.
Churches.
Spicy white meat, Cajun rice. And one of them strawberry drinks, my God, that's my favorite.
That's awesome.
But no, so he would come in with a box of chicken and everybody get a piece of chicken. So it's really sweet stories, but, you know, that's how it happened.
It's a lot of legendary stuff.
Right.
So at what point did you feel like CeeLo Green kind of needs to do a solo thing and pursue the solo route?
Well, to try to reaccount the history, Goody Mob ended up doing 3 albums together. Again, like we weren't initially meant to be a group, but you know, there was a lot of us, and everybody was kind of waiting in the wings, waiting their turn. And, you know, Outkast's first album, everybody was just kind of supporting it, you know what I mean, in hopes that it would succeed, and it actually did. So everything became real after Outkast's first album was released. And, you know, we had another opportunity to put something out quick, fast, and in a hurry. And so we thought that it would be more practical to put all of the working parts together and create a supergroup, you know, which was Goody Mob. And it was drastically different from Outkast in terms of content and style. But we wanted to be a variable, you know what I'm saying, like to show how diverse we were as a collective and how diverse the music scene was in Atlanta, Georgia. You know, but I remember Atlanta, Georgia didn't have an identity in terms of sonically, you know what I mean, like, or even sentimentally, you know what I mean, like, you know, yeah, I mean, I know this, but they used to call Atlanta Little Miami, you know, and I'll tell you why. Because we didn't really have music of our own, so they considered it all to be one South. And that's why there's so much innate, you know what I mean, like embrace and love and identification with a relationship between Atlanta and Miami, because we always have. But we called it, what you guys called Miami bass. Shout out to Two Live Crew, Gigolo Tony, Gucci Crew, LaJuan Love, all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? Young and the Restless, y'all remember them Miami groups? All right, I'm a historian, so, you know, I know all about it. So what was considered Miami bass was considered skating rink music. So it was like Planet Rock and all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, that was the organic kind of like evolution from what Africa Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force and those guys did in New York, and then how it translated to the South with Miami bass. You know, Poison Clan, you know, Trick, you know, these are all friends of mine, I'm proud to say, you know, but we call this skate rink music, and this is like movies like ATL with T.I. So we went skating to the music, and then we had dance crews. I don't know if y'all remember movies like The Warriors, you know what I mean, like the East Coast gangs. Well, it was dance crews. So we would dance off. They would have these times of where they shut the skating rink down, and they open up the floor for people to get out there and dance. So like, you know, believe it or not, man, for a big dude, I can move, I'm telling you. You know what I'm saying? So I used to be a dancer, I used to be a graffiti artist, I wanted to be a DJ, then I ultimately ended up being an MC. So all of the facets of hip hop, man, like I embody them all, you know. But yeah, that's it. I mean, so that's the origin of Atlanta music. So we really identify with the scene. And I mean, so for me to come here and live like it's natural, I've been, you know, Miami's like paradise. You know what I'm saying? So I love it. It's beautiful all day, every day. Even with those little flash showers, it don't even matter. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I be loving it, man. I be hating to leave here, man. I'm telling you, man. I'm gonna be here a long time, so y'all get used to it. All right, what else you got?
For sure. No, I mean, you're a chameleon in a a lot of ways. You're able to do a lot. You sing, you songwrite.
And you gotta forgive me too. Keep me on track too. If I ask you a question,
it's all
I just
good.
get to rambling. There's so much stuff I want to tell you. Now that I got an opportunity,
Yeah,
I got a microphone in my face.
For sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have too much time. But I'm trying to, you know, condense everything. But
Yeah, I try to be concise.
Yeah, trying to be concise. So I want to talk about like CeeLo Green, the solo artist.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about like some of your early releases of CeeLo Green?
Yeah. So after we had the success with Goody Mob, you know, 3 gold albums, you know, we amicably agreed to kind of go our separate ways, just for the formality of, you know, giving each other an opportunity to showcase what the individual talents were. So, as you can see, anybody familiar with my debut album, CeeLo Green and His Perfect Imperfections? All right, so the first single off that album was called Closet Freak. Do y'all remember that? Man, y'all gotta go back and look at these videos, man. So, not that I felt constricted in Goody Mob, but Goody Mob was more buttoned up, if you will. It was very politically charged. You know, it was about social commentary and, you know, that narrative about, you know, power to the people, you know, and I still feel like that. But in terms of just art and color and, you know, the splashing up against the canvas, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's really what that's my broader scope, you know what I mean? So I got right on the job, you know what I mean, like of expressing that, you know what I mean? So if you go back and look at videos like Closet Freak, you'll see, you know what I mean, you know, And not to mention, you know, we had long-term relationships with people like George Clinton. You guys know George Clinton? Y'all look like little babies, man. You know what I'm saying? Well, I don't know if y'all be knowing what I'm talking about. This George Clinton, man, Dr. Funkenstein. So, like, he befriended the Dungeon family, and he christened us the Young Parliament Funkadelic. So with that being said, we felt like we had a license to do anything we wanted to do. And sometimes if you want to do something exceptional, you just can't proclaim to be exceptional without any action. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, so what's the first fundamental thing you can do to try to make that statement? You know, is through the fashion sense or the fashion statement, if you will. So we begin to act out, you know, our exceptionality, you know, in distinguishing ourselves with wardrobe. And and you know what, a lot of people think it's so uber serious. Like, no, like a lot of it stems from just sense of humor. Like, I just think it's funny, you know what I mean? So anytime you guys have seen me acting up on The Voice with wigs and, you know, I've done everything. I've worn wigs, wedding dresses, I've done it all. You know, but all for the sake of art, all to inspire individuality, originality, fearlessness, you know what I'm saying? Excursion, expansion, you know, all of these really big words, these really big ideas. I just felt like, you know, if God was going to spare my life with the opportunity, I wanted to get right on the job of giving it right back, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so I have a lot of love, you know what I mean, like in what I do, and I'm brave for the sake of the people, you know what I'm saying? But it's my heart smiling when I do a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that CeeLo Green is so different, so eccentric. You know what I mean? I let people believe that kind of stuff, if you know, like, but I'm really, really, really normal. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying? Look at me, man. Look at these pretty little feet. I'm just a regular guy, man. I just want to just chill out in Miami. You know, stop bothering me. No, but for arts, I'll act up. I'll go all of the way. You know what I'm saying? And I think people have grown to expect it somewhat from me, anticipate it, you know, and celebrate it. You know what I mean? Because it's necessary, man. Like, you know, we've got to be ambassadors for our art and community. You know what I mean? And I want to encourage anybody that's in school, you know, relative to that. You know, definitely, man, stand up on that, you know? So that's what I do it for. I do it for y'all.
Mm.
Yeah.
It seems like you love, like, bringing people together, mixing genres together, soul, funk, jazz, R&B, kind of a little bit of all that.
I do, man, because I believe that, of course, you have to be able to categorize music so you could, you know, it's categorized as product, so you can then tend to the product placement, right? So you have to be able to identify where to be able to locate it and all of that. But I do believe that essentially, you know, when you divide music into category, you divide people. You know what I'm saying? And I do believe it's separatist. And there was a time where it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? Like, there was a time when we all liked John Cougar Mellencamp's Jack and Diane. Y'all remember that song? I didn't think there was a white. I didn't know who the song. It just felt good. It just sounded good. You know what I mean? It was the jam. Oh, I used to love the Rolling Stones' "Miss You." I thought that was black song, but it was Mick Jagger. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and I've had a difficult time being marketed. You know what I mean? So because of my ambition to be all-inclusive. So albums like Perfect Imperfection or Soul Machine, and then ultimately Gnarls Barkley, that's when I got it right. You know what I'm saying? Because I focused on one thing. Like, those first albums, I was producing myself. A lot of people don't know, man, I write and produce and arrange, and I do it all, man. Like, you know, with no classical training, I'm a pretty talented guy. You know what I'm saying? You know. Humbly, I say that.
Sure,
you know?
for sure. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
About the songwriting? Because
I just want to bring people together just to see what you're saying.
Sure.
That's really important to me. So that's like my own personal plight.
Sure.
You know, for my artistic endeavor. That's to bring as many people together as we can.
Can you go into some of the songwriting credits? I mean, I think certain people are familiar with your catalog, but I think there's some records that you helped pen that a lot of people aren't as familiar with, like the Pussycat Dolls.
Yeah, I
for
was going to make
example.
a point. I was going to say I write and produce. I wrote "Don't You" for the Pussycat Dolls and produced that. People don't know that. What else I do? Y'all know Solange, her second album. I wrote her first single called "Tony." You remember that record? I wrote that for her. So we're all friends, you know. But sometimes I wear these different hats. Like, I have sessions or prolonged moments of where I just want to be in a writing kind of capacity. So, and how that's done, I write for women because I talk to women. I have really strong and communicative women in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have conversations. I'm a caring human being, person, and man, like a real man. You know what I mean? Like, so I listen. You know what I mean? Like, I pay attention, and I was able to kind of put myself in the space of a woman. Like for these isolated events to write. Or what I mean, as long as it's genuine and honest, and you really want to connect with people, I think, what I mean, like those are the attributes to have, I mean, like, and to go forward with, just a genuineness to want to relate, I mean, like, and share alike. So, yeah, I mean, it's gotten fairly easy over the years to do.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about the Gnarls Barkley project, like how that came about, crazy?
All right, so Gnarls Barkley is a partnership between myself and producer Danger Mouse. I met Danger Mouse on a whim. We were doing a Dungeon Family show in Athens, Georgia at UGA, and it was raining, and he had on a hood, and I thought he was gonna rob me. You know what I'm saying? But he wanted to give me a CD, so he gave me a mixtape, and I didn't listen to it, I don't know what I did with it, but it was him, years later to find out. So another friend of mine, he, his parents were, successful. I think they had a couple of car lots down there, and he was trying to, earn his keep. So he wanted to be a show promoter. So he befriended me, and I did my first solo shows off of those albums in Athens. First show I ever did on stage without Goody Mob by myself.
In Georgia?
Yeah, Athens, Georgia. So he was like, yo, I got another friend, man. I think I need to hook y'all up, man. Y'all will do something crazy together. So, Danger Mouse came to Atlanta, and I ended up doing a remix to a song for a project that he was working on with another artist named Gemini. And I think that was probably like a chemistry there, because I am actually a Gemini, and so was the other guy, but his name was Gemini. My name is CeeLo, you know what I mean? But, so it was Danger Mouse and Gemini, What You Sitting On, down, you can go find it if it's out there somewhere. But I did a remix for that, and he concluded the session. I was like, all right, buddy, thank you, man. It was nice. Give me my money, I'm out of here. But I'm teasing, but nah, he was like, yo, can I play you a couple of things, before you go? And I was like, sure. So he played maybe 10 things, and maybe 6 of them became, what's now known as Saint Elsewhere, the debut Gnarls Barkley album featuring Crazy, And I was like, dang, like, this stuff sounds really interesting. And it just spoke to me. And I said, yo, I want to use a couple of your tracks. And years later in an interview, I would discover him saying that he was only bluffing me. You know what I'm saying? Because when he said this, he said, well, I don't just do tracks, I do albums. That's what he said. I don't know if I can cuss in front of y'all, but I use some selective language. I was like, shit, let's do an album then. So that's kind of how it was. Like, so then, we were both independent. I didn't have a deal, he didn't have a deal. We went in out of pocket, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, yo, I got about a week, you know what I'm saying, like to work before I go to Iceland. And he was working with the Gorillas. Y'all familiar with Gorillas? So he had just made the Grey album. If y'all familiar with Danger Mouse's work, people regard him as a genius, and he is. He's an insanely talented dude. So I was really fortunate to have crossed his path and met him, and we really had that synergy. But he gave me a copy of the Gray album, which was the mashup of the Beatles' White Album and Jay-Z's Black Album, if y'all familiar with that. He's like, here, check this, this something I just did. So we had about a week to record. We did Crazy. Crazy, how we wrote Crazy was, we were just sitting there and we were going through different tracks. I'm like, let me hear that, let me hear that. So this just came on. A boom, 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 boom. You know how it go, right? And I was like, what's that? And so I said, just put it on loop. So we looped it for about 5 or 6 hours. Just sitting there talking, eating, getting up, going to the bathroom, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it just played. And eventually just, maybe throughout the course of the conversation, I'm taking little things or, just lyrics start formulating. And I did it in one take. Now, people think that's a big deal, and it was a big deal at the time, but I just did it because I didn't really know. You know what I'm saying? So, since then, that came out in 04, 05, I think, Nars Barkley. I've sung it 1,000 times since then, and I've sung it better than the original song. Because you gotta remember when you're just writing lyrics down, and you kind of almost, I got one eye on the paper, halfway into the mic like this, reading it, and then remember, now this is the first time we're working with each other, so like, I'm trying to impress the guy a little bit, you know what I mean? So I'm looking at him, so my eyes like this, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, like, what you think? I'm trying to see if he vibing, right? So we did the record, and after it was over, I was like, all right, that was cool. He said, yeah, that was cool. All right, let's try something else, and and it was just nonchalant like that. Life-changing experience. You know what I mean? Like, it's one other good thing too. He left to go work with the Gorillas, right? I said that. So I had just got through doing Don't Ya. I think maybe after we got through with those sessions, I went to another studio and did Don't Ya. He went to Iceland and recorded Feel Good Inc. with the Gorillas. You know what I'm talking about? Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Y'all know that song, right? All right, so that's him, he did that. So then Crazy leaks. We didn't know that it was a hit record, mind you. You know what I mean? I didn't know what it was. I'm never pretentious enough to even assume. I would never do that. You know what I mean? Like, I just try to be as genuine as I can, and hopefully somebody like it. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. So all 3 of these songs were #1. So Crazy was #1 in London for 8 weeks before we signed a deal. So it's really got a great deal of history attached to that song. It went #1 by digital downloads alone. So that was like the first of its kind. That's when that whole new rating, that whole system was just coming about. You know what I'm saying? And we almost beat Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. We almost beat their time at #1. So we were about to shatter a historic record. It probably would still be #1. So we ended up taking it down. You know what I'm saying? Like, at our own person, just stop it, because we didn't want to do that.
Right.
I didn't think nothing of it. I'm just like, yo, that's, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think. Remember, like, it's just independent. It's all happening all of a sudden. I'm like, yo, like, it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, and this next thing you know, we just kind of packed the bag, and I went around the world for the next 6 years. So.
I think I saw somewhere that Rolling Stone listed it as the song of the decade.
Song of the decade, you know what I mean? That's just been up. So I guess how they rate records, it was #1 song of the decade for the last 10 years. I mean, it never gets old, and I'm glad people love that record, being sincere, you know what I mean? I'm glad it happened. Yeah, it's got a Guinness World Record for being played on more radio formats than any other song. So put it like this. Crazy got played on talk radio, where they don't even play music.
Right. That's
You know what I'm saying? Like, and you can do it too if you buy my new book.
too funny. Oh, man. So do you guys still work together? You and Danger Mouse?
Yeah, and we hadn't worked together in 10 years.
Yeah.
So recently, Goody Mob's second album, Still Standing, we're still in the middle of celebrating the 20th year anniversary for that. And then also it was the 10-year anniversary, so it was up for Crazy. And a lot of wonderful things are happening, man. You know, we went out to the desert recently and just rented a house, a home studio. And I'm like, here we are again. You know what I'm saying? We hadn't been in the same room in 10 years. Because remember, we weren't trying to be a group. It was just much like the Goody Mob, like I wasn't really trying. So if people think that it's cool, I don't have no airs and no ego, it's just because, man, I just was not trying. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad for that. That's why I'm just so cool and so down to earth. Because I'm just very, very appreciative. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, we're gonna try to do another record, you know, and we got about 10 songs already. So we have more records than we ever had. Like, you know, we only recorded enough to have an album's worth of material. So we didn't have overtures and, you know, B-sides and stuff like that, because, like, we just weren't trying. It really wasn't. It was completely informal, you know. But so now we're going to attempt to make an effort. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and the stuff is coming out pretty good so far.
From what I've heard, sounds really great.
I'm being modest, but it's, you know, it's pretty good.
Absolutely. So this will be your third album together?
Yep, it'll be a third album. You know, and I'm happy. I'd be happy to go around the world again. You know, if God, you know, God willing, yeah.
So post Gnarls Barkley, you released a song called "F.U."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So good.
Tell me a little bit like the inspiration behind that, behind "F.U." Forget You, or otherwise known as another title.
Okay. So remember I told you the Crazy was #1 for 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So once the stars aligned like that, they had to give us a record deal, right?
Right.
So they gave us a record deal, and you know, they had to give me a solo deal too. They had to, right? So all of a sudden, I was rich and fat and irresponsible. I was kidding. No, cute, you know what I'm saying? Chubby, not fat. No. So I did a solo deal with Atlantic, Warner UK, and you know, just in the studio writing. And I was introduced to Bruno Mars, but he wasn't Bruno Mars then. They were a writing collab team called Phil and Bruno. If you guys go and look, next time y'all watching Bruno perform, there's a guy that's always really close to him. He's a black guy, wears glasses. That's Phil Lawrence. He's a bad guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's really, really talented. And he's got everything to do with Bruno being the success that he is, and shouts out to them. You know, so, you know, everybody was, you know, I was, you know, opening myself up to scenarios that I hadn't yet, you know, experienced. That's kind of just working with people. So I just figured, all right, let's try something. So I remember them coming over to the studio, and I told this story on the Breakfast Club the other day, not too long ago. They came over to the studio, hi, I'm Phil and Bruno, what you doing? You know, and I was like, yeah, so, you know, what we doing? You know, I'm being a little arrogant, I think, you know what I'm saying? And we didn't really have much to work on and much to talk about, and it was really awkward the first time. And so I told him, I'm like, yo, I'll be right back, I gotta go to the bathroom. But the studio was downstairs in a hotel. It's a hotel called the Sunset Marquis in LA. It's a really famous hotel. You know, they got pictures all up and down the wall, all of the many rock stars, Keith Richards, Elvis Costello, you name it, like they've all been in this hotel. So, you know, I like the vibe over there. They got the little bungalows, it's real sexy and dope. You know, and they got the studio downstairs, so I could just go down in my flip-flops or whatever and record a hit. So, So I told him I was going to the bathroom, and I was like, you know, and I never came back.
Peaced out on it.
You know what I'm saying? It's because I was shy. You know, I didn't really know how to make friends. You know. So we got over that part. We got back together. They weren't offended by it. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad they weren't. You know, because we went on to be really good friends. Then he has a studio not too far back, so I ended up going. He said, well, next time can we just go to my place? And I mean, like maybe we'll be more comfortable over there. So I went over there, and Bruno Mars, he wrote, at this time, after Crazy, the labels felt like I could sing anything and get away with it. So they would then had the notion to start getting writers, you know what I'm saying, to try to write with me. You know, so he wrote Just the Way You Are, you know, that record right there. So it's a hit record now, but I wish it was mine, but he wrote it for me, but I didn't like it for me. And I was like, you know, that's too soft, I don't like that. You know, so. You know, but it worked perfect for him. Not to say he's soft, I'm just saying.
Right.
He got soft hair.
Yeah, I got soft hair.
Yeah.
Right.
That naturally curly Hawaiian hair. All right. So, I'm trying to make you laugh, man. All right. So anyway, all seriousness, he's super duper talented, as you guys can see. So he wrote that record. I think his first breakout record was Millionaire for Travis McCoy. And no. Then it was Billionaire, and then it was Nothing on You with B.O.B. And he just took off from there. And I was just like, wow, man, I was just with this dude. I wish I had known. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like, I wish I had known. Because they had so much love and admiration for me, you know? So anyway, FU came about. It was just one day. We had recorded 5 or 6 songs together. You know, I was on his debut album, a song called On the Other Side, if y'all look at it. So we did a bunch of songs together. And we were friends, and we still are friends. I had gotten frustrated with the fact that I could not please the label. There was still this wide disconnect. They weren't liking anything, you know, or, you know, I couldn't move them. And I was like, damn, you know. So one day, trying to make a long story short, one day I went in the studio, he said, yo, I got an idea for a record. He played the first boom, 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 dun, dun, dun. You know how it goes, right? Then he was like, I got this idea. He said, you know, just hear me out. Riding around town with the girl I love, you fill in the blanks. I was like, So we went through the different versions. Like at the time, it was either riding around town, cruising around town, skipping around town, like every alternative to it, you know, we went through it and we freestyled that song. So he had the hook, me and Phil sat there kind of just going back and forth. And I went in the booth and I freestyled it. And I do that now. I can't even, you guys know because we work together, like I can hardly sit there and write it anymore. I just have to go sit in front of the mic and I'll just think about it. You know, and this is something that Jay-Z and guys like Lil Wayne, like I guess you get to a point of benevolence. It's like you chi or something like that, man. It's like that real Bruce Lee type thing. But I can do it. Yeah. But anyway, that's the history of the song. It's another life game-changing moment in time in my professional career. I mean, like, I had no idea. I only recorded that record trying to spite the label. At the time, I was trying to get dropped from Atlantic Records. We've since then laughed about it, you know what I mean? Like, everybody knows this story. I've said it a few times. You know, I said, this record is so ridiculous, they're gonna hate me, they'll drop me, and then I can go back to being independent where I had all of my success. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have my success having to share my kitchen with too many cooks. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? So, but when they heard it, they were like, wait a minute, I think we got something here. And then we went through another series of alternatives. Forget you, F you, bump you, never mind you, disregard you. You know what I'm saying? Like, We went through every option trying to secure this record. And the quickest, most cost-effective thing they could come up with, and it ended up being genius, was they created the lyric sheet. You know what I'm saying? You had never seen it before with just the motion, you're reading the lyrics to a song. So I had to go to London and do some press or whatever I was doing. And, from LA to London, it's like 8-hour flight. They dropped that lyric sheet, bro. By the time I landed in LA, it was a certified hit record. So I guess it took about 8 hours for that record to just become a phenomenon. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so, I'm really fortunate in my, because I got a short career in comparison to a lot of people, but I've been in the game since 1995, that's 20 plus years, you know what I'm saying? And I'm fortunate to have a couple of songs of what they consider to be evergreens. Like these songs, they won't go nowhere, you know what I'm saying? So I still do those records, and people love them records like they new records. I just wish I'm ready to make a new one. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So praise God for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Presently, are you signed to anyone presently?
No, I'm independent again.
Okay.
I'm independent again, man.
Can you tell us about like a little bit of the pros and cons of being independent as opposed to being constrained by a major back when you released some of these records that we spoke about?
Yeah, there's a little bit of pressure being in major label situations because, any amount of money, you know what I'm saying, allows the opinionation, you know what I'm saying, to infringe upon the art, you know what I'm saying, or the creative space. So you end up sharing the creative space with a corporation, you know what I mean, and they don't necessarily create the music, you know what I'm saying, but they funded the project. So they are entitled to their opinion, you know what I'm saying? And, but, there's a really slight difference between pressure and perspective. You know what I mean? The perspective of a pop record label, their prerogative is just pop music. So that's their agenda. You know what I mean? Like me, I want to be a Renaissance artist where I want to do jazz, I want to do spoken word, I want to do hip hop, I want to do anything I want to do. I want to be free. You know what I'm saying? And I've gotten some really, great results. I'm saying, taking that approach. So I saw that, I was becoming, it was starting to, be fledglingly. Is that a word? It was, I was becoming stagnated with the situation. And we just got to a point to where we realized that we couldn't help each other. Like the business relationship was good. We made money together and, all of those, those kind of things aside. But it's music business, and that's the order that it comes in. With no music, there's no business. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, don't infringe upon that. Allow that. Trust the process. You know what I mean? Trust me. You know what I'm saying? But as technology and times change, the time elapsed. And we don't. Back then, there was the time where you could take 2 years, 3 years to drop an album. That's when the albums were more monumental and they were eventful. You know what I'm saying? But it's not like that anymore. You know what I mean? You have to keep up. You have to accelerate your output. You know what I mean? Our entire society suffers from ADD in some regard. You know what I'm saying? And there's so much muck, there's so much mediocrity to sift through. It's really hard to cut through and be distinctive. You know what I'm saying? So, so independence is, the odds are, it's ironic. Independence is very ironic. You know what I mean? The odds are against you. You know what I'm saying? If you win, you know what I'm saying? You can win super duper big. If you lose it all. You know what I'm saying? And I know what it is to own 100% of nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, independence is the it's the brick road. You know what I mean? It's the trudge uphill. And it does build an awful lot of character. You know what I'm saying? Some great music can come out of that pressure / perspective. And I invite it as a challenge, as an adversity. You know what I'm saying? To be a champion. So I don't mind the fight. You know what I mean? And especially if we can win, and so many other people can be inspired. Maybe they can, strive to keep their independence as well and keep their individuality in everything that makes them. You know what I'm saying? So music at large, the landscape can be diverse and fruitful and colorful the way that it once was. So like everything, see, art is not imitating life anymore. Art is imitating industry. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what do they call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Assembly line. You know what I'm saying? So the dignity, the integrity, the core essentials, these things aren't considered, necessary. The labels don't believe that stars are born. They believe that stars are made. You feel me? And then there is a such thing as racket and monopoly on radio and media and all of the different outlets. And, sometimes you can be ostracized in a way of where if people don't have anything to do with your venture, if they're not partnering into it, they could squeeze you out. You know what I'm saying? So I have learned, because I had a lot of success as an individual and as an independent, and then in retrospect now, I've learned that, having the right relationships, is pretty necessary. You know what I'm saying? So, I've also learned that the world is a very small place. So try to be as kind to people and genuine to people as you can. You just really never know. You know what I mean? Like how it'll come back around. So I try to, stay on the high end of morale and esteem, and also sharing that optimistic vantage point on life.
You mentioned Brick Road just now. That's a recent single that you released. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Shameless plug is produced by these guys.
Shameless plug.
Shot down, but I levitate. An idle mind starts to contemplate. Razor blades making lifelines. Now I'm staring at an empty plate, and it tastes oh so bittersweet. Basically need something to eat. You know what? I hadn't, I guess you could call it street music. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's definitely a street record. And, it kind of reminds me of being young again and kind of going back to the basics, like pots and pans and making something out of nothing, turning one into two. All of the hustler terminologies, they come to life singing that record, and I am a survivor, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm a grinder, I'm a hustler, you know what I mean? Like, and you have to show and prove that. You know what I mean? Because, sometimes there's the powers that be, they don't know if you've had too much success, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've grown complacent. So sometimes you defaulted, back to a situation or something circumstantial that, challenges you to rise to the occasion again. And I feel like that's really where I'm at, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm able, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm adventurous. So like, Brick Road, I'm so glad to bump into you guys. Shouts out to my man P who put us all together. And we got in the room and we were creative. And Brick Road was a song that they had already, they kind of wrote with me in mind, and it was another one of those situations like, okay, I'm listening to, it's almost like a script or something, you know what I'm saying? You feel me? But not as impersonal, but like when Martin Scorsese says, Robert De Niro, you know what I mean? Like, I wrote this script with you in mind. When he says that, he means, of course you're going to improv. You're Robert De Niro, you know what I mean? You feel me? I was just thinking of you, you know what I mean? Like, you're my muse. So, I was able to be a muse for this really wonderful song. And I'm like, this right where I want to be. This right how I feel. I identify with it. I made my little 2 cents in. And it's the record that I would have wanted to be reintroduced right back on the ground level, eye to eye with the real people. You know what I'm saying? Like having some real talk. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what it's all about. So it is about, hunger, and it's about hustling. You know what I mean? And I mean that literally.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll just say my last.
That's a great segue to the most popular question from the audience today, which is, and it would help to understand we have an AS in music business program here. and we have a lot of students who are aspiring to be musicians and to make a career of it. And they wanted to know your advice to them about breaking into the industry and having a successful career.
I mean, there's a difference between being on the outskirts or being in the middle. There's a difference between being in the system and not of the system. You know what I mean? But you're outnumbered. You know what I mean? That's for one. It's not impossible. You know what I mean? It's just not an easy task. But you have to, apply yourself and commit yourself to craft. Be distinguishable. If you are the artist themselves, try to contribute. You know what I mean? Some people just kind of get in to fit in. Others try to get in to make a difference. You know what I'm saying? Not to divide and conquer, but to be distinguishable. And it's just kind of, I think we need a variety of artists and a variety of music. You know what I mean? That's really important to me. So that's going to always be my advice to people. Try to be as original as you possibly can. I mean, you're already the only you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't believe that, God has given us any frivolous or random plight of existence for no point whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? So what's gonna be your story? You know what I mean? And what are we here to do? We're, ultimately, and that's to procreate. And I mean that in the context of, producing music, you know what I mean? Or producing other people, or planting that seed in someone else. Even as soon as you acquire the knowledge, as soon as you pass it on, the student becomes a teacher almost immediately. You know what I'm saying? So share and share alike, build a community. You know what I'm saying? There's power in the numbers. So, you know what I mean? As people have typically historically done, represent where you're from. You know what I'm saying? And build a core unit here and make sure that your people are taken care of, first and foremost.
We are just about out of time, and I wanted to personally thank CeeLo and Unique for coming out today and spending their very valuable time giving back to our community at Miami Dade College. Thank you so much for coming.
Some kind of correction. Been walking in circles, seeing things I've seen before, but I wanna know more. I walk in a straight line, but then I look away from you. I start to lose my way and do the things I said I would never do. And it's all for a moment of satisfaction that feels